There is a level of discipline that doesn't look impressive. No loud motivation, no hype, no applause. But once you see it, you feel uncomfortable. Because this kind of discipline doesn't care how you feel. It works when you're tired. It shows up when you're unmotivated. It moves forward when excuses feel reasonable. And that's why it's terrifying. Most people wait to feel ready. They wait for confidence. They wait for motivation. But the truth is, waiting is how dreams die quietly. There was a man who understood this hundreds of years ago. A man who didn't rely on talent, didn't rely on luck, didn't rely on motivation. He relied on discipline so cold, so precise, so relentless, that it made his enemies lose before the fight even began. His name was Miyamoto Musashi. He believed that if you cannot control yourself, you cannot control anything. Not your future, not your fear, not your destiny. While others trained when it felt good, he trained because it was necessary. While others chased comfort, he walked straight into discomfort. And that is the discipline most people will never reach. Because it demands something brutal. You must stop negotiating with your weakness. No excuses, no emotional debates, no waiting for the perfect moment. Just action, again and again. This video is not here to motivate you. It's here to confront you. Because once you understand this level of discipline, you either rise to meet it or you realize why most people never do. Stay with me. Who is he? Before the legends, before the books, before the myths, he was just a boy, born into chaos. Japan was at war. Violence was normal. Death was everywhere. And in that world, Miyamoto Musashi was shaped. He was not born into royalty, not raised with privilege, not trained by famous masters. In fact, he had no teacher, no school, no system, no safety net. Everything he became, he carved out himself. By the age of 13, he fought his first duel, not as a trained warrior, not as a prodigy, but as a boy who refused to be weak. And he won. That wasn't talent, that was decision. Musashi grew up as a ronin, a masterless samurai. No lord to protect him, no army behind him, no reputation to hide behind. Just a sword, a body, and a mind under constant pressure. He traveled alone, from village to village, from duel to duel. More than 60 fights, not one recorded loss. But here's the part people misunderstand. Musashi didn't win because he was brutal. He won because he was precise. He studied timing, distance, rhythm. While others obsessed over techniques, he obsessed over understanding. He watched how people moved, how they breathed, how fear entered their body before it entered their mind. And then he attacked. Not the body, but the certainty of his opponent. Sometimes he arrived late on purpose, just to disturb their mind. Sometimes he used a wooden sword against steel, not to show off, but to prove something terrifying. Skill does not depend on tools. Power does not depend on appearances. Musashi rejected comfort. While other samurai polished armor and chased status, he lived simply, often in isolation, often in poverty. He believed that attachment was weakness, attachment to comfort, attachment to praise, attachment to identity. He didn't want to look strong. He wanted to be unavoidable. And as he aged, something changed. He stopped chasing duels, not because he became weaker, but because he had already won the most important battle, the one against himself. He retreated into solitude and wrote a book. Not a book of swords, a book of strategy. About life, conflict, mastery. The Book of 5 Rings. In it, he wrote principles that still apply today, in business, in competition, in life. Control your emotions. See the whole picture. Never rely on a single method. Know yourself completely. Musashi didn't die famous. He died disciplined. No titles, no empire, no applause, just clarity. And that is why his name survived centuries. Because power fades, skill gets replaced, but discipline, true discipline, outlives everything. That is who he was. Not a hero, not a monster, but a man who mastered himself when most people never even try. The scariest discipline is not loud. It doesn't scream motivation. It doesn't wait for the perfect mood. It doesn't care how inspired you feel. It simply executes. Miyamoto Musashi understood something most people spend their entire lives avoiding. If your actions depend on your emotions, you will always be weak. That's why he said, "Do not let yourself be controlled by feeling." Musashi did not train when he felt like it. He trained because it was required, because it was necessary, because discipline to him was not a choice, it was a responsibility. While others waited for motivation, Musashi woke before sunrise, not to chase success, not to feel productive, but to prepare his mind before the world distracted it. He practiced, he observed, he wrote, he stayed silent. Not because silence was comfortable, but because silence sharpened awareness. He lived without luxury, without attachment, without softness, not to punish himself, but to remove weakness. Musashi believed that comfort creates dependency, and dependency creates hesitation, and hesitation is death. So he stripped life down to what mattered: movement, timing, clarity. He trained his body to obey instantly. He trained his mind to remain calm under pressure. No emotional negotiations, no inner arguments, no "I'll start tomorrow." Just action. Again and again and again. This is the part most people can't handle, because Musashi's discipline did not care if he was tired. It did not care if he was bored. It did not care if no one was watching. In fact, it worked best when no one was watching, because that's where real discipline lives, not in public effort, but in private standards. Musashi prepared as if every moment could be a duel, not paranoid, but precise. He trained his response until hesitation disappeared. So when pressure arrived, he didn't rise to the occasion, he defaulted to discipline. And that is terrifying, because it means he was always ready, always grounded, always ahead. His opponents fought with emotion. Musashi fought with clarity. They fought to win. He fought to end uncertainty. This level of discipline does something dangerous. It removes chaos from your behavior. And once chaos is gone, fear has nowhere to hide. That's why people misunderstood him. They thought he was cold, detached, emotionless. But the truth is, Musashi felt everything. He simply refused to let feelings dictate his actions. And that is the discipline most people will never reach. Because it demands you stop listening to excuses that sound reasonable. "I'm tired. I'm not ready. I don't feel motivated." Musashi would call those distractions, not problems. Distractions from the path. To him, discipline was simple. Do what must be done, at the moment it must be done, without emotional interference. No drama, no delay, just execution. And once you live like that, life stops controlling you, pressure stops shaking you, and obstacles stop feeling personal. That's why his discipline was terrifying, not because it was extreme, but because it was unbreakable. The most dangerous battles are not fought with weapons. They are fought inside the mind. Miyamoto Musashi understood this early. He knew that strength without control is useless. Speed without clarity is reckless, and emotion without discipline is self-destruction. That's why Musashi believed the real fight happens before anything moves, before the sword is raised, before words are spoken, before action begins. He called it winning before the fight begins. Musashi trained his mind to remain still while everything else moved. Anger did not rush him. Fear did not freeze him. Pressure did not break him. Not because he lacked emotion, but because he refused to be ruled by it. Most people lose before they even start. They lose to anxiety. They lose to doubt. They lose to imagined outcomes. Musashi saw this weakness and eliminated it. He did not argue with his emotions. He observed them. He allowed them to exist without letting them decide. When fear appeared, he did not fight it. He acknowledged it and moved anyway. When anger rose, he did not react. He waited until clarity returned. Because reaction is predictable, and predictability is death. Musashi believed that the calmest mind controls the situation, not the loudest, not the fastest, not the angriest.
The calmest. That is why he unsettled his opponents before the fight began. He arrived late, he broke expectations, he disrupted rhythm, not to insult, but to destabilize their mind. While they burned energy inside their thoughts, Musashi conserved his. While they imagined failure, he observed reality. This is mental discipline. The ability to stay present while others panic, the ability to think clearly while others rush, the ability to wait while others waste their strength. Musashi trained his awareness constantly. He watched people, how they walked, how they stood, how they breathed, because the body reveals what the mind tries to hide. He knew that hesitation always appears first in the mind, so he eliminated hesitation from himself. No second-guessing, no inner debate, no emotional delay. Once he decided, he moved. That is terrifying control. And this discipline was not limited to combat. It was how he lived. He did not chase approval. He did not seek validation. He did not depend on praise, because dependence weakens judgment. Musashi believed that a dependent mind cannot be free, and a mind that is not free cannot win. So he practiced detachment. Not coldness, not emptiness, detachment from outcomes. He focused on execution, not results, because results are external. Control is internal, and internal control is the only thing no one can take from you. This is why Musashi's mental discipline still applies today, in pressure, in competition, in life. If you can control your mind, stress loses power. If you can control your reactions, chaos loses influence. If you can remain calm, you become dangerous, because a calm mind sees openings others miss. And once you master that, you don't need to fight harder. You don't need to prove anything. You simply move with certainty. And certainty ends conflict before it begins. That is mental discipline. Not emotional suppression, but emotional command. And that is why Musashi was never defeated. Not because his enemies were weak, but because his mind was already victorious.
Miyamoto Musashi once said, "If you know yourself and the enemy, you need not fear the result of 100 battles." Most people misunderstand this. They think self-mastery means controlling others, winning arguments, dominating competition. Musashi believed the opposite. The greatest enemy was never outside. It was your own weakness, your impulses, your attachments, your need for comfort. So Musashi studied himself more than he studied his opponents. He watched his reactions, his fears, his habits, because he knew this truth. If you don't understand yourself, you will always fight blind. That's why he lived simply, not because he lacked options, but because simplicity removes distraction. Distraction weakens focus. Focus creates power. Musashi cut away anything that softened him. Excess comfort, excess emotion, excess identity. He believed that every unnecessary thing you keep eventually controls you. So he asked one brutal question: does this make me stronger or weaker? If it made him weaker, he removed it. No hesitation, no attachment. This is self-mastery. Not adding more to your life, but subtracting what drains you. Musashi didn't chase pleasure. He didn't chase approval. He didn't chase status, because chasing creates dependency, and dependency destroys freedom. He wanted a mind that was not pulled by desire or pushed by fear. A mind that could choose without pressure. That is real control. And here's the part most people avoid. Self-mastery is not dramatic. It's quiet. It's saying no when no one is watching. It's walking away from what feels good now for what makes you strong later. It's refusing to become the person your weakness wants you to be. Musashi understood this. If you master yourself, life stops dominating you. People stop manipulating you. Circumstances stop shaking you, because nothing outside has more control over you than you do. That is why his discipline endured. Not because he defeated others, but because nothing inside him was left ungoverned. And that is the highest form of strength.
Let me ask you something, and don't answer it quickly. Do you train when you feel like it, or when it needs to be done? Do you move forward only when motivation shows up, or do you move even when everything inside you resists? Because here's the truth most people don't want to hear. Your feelings don't care about your future. They care about comfort. They care about avoidance. They care about staying the same. And if you let them lead, your life will never change. Miyamoto Musashi didn't wait to feel ready. He didn't wait to feel confident. He didn't wait for the perfect moment. He moved because movement was required. Ask yourself, who is in control right now? Is it you? Or is it your fear, your laziness, your excuses that sound logical? Because excuses don't sound dangerous. They sound reasonable. I'll start tomorrow. I'm tired today. I'm not ready yet. That's how discipline dies. Not loudly, not dramatically, but quietly, day by day. Here's the uncomfortable reality. The discipline that changes your life will never make you popular. It won't get applause, it won't get likes, it won't get approval. But it will do something far more important. It will make you unbreakable. When pressure hits, you won't panic. When motivation disappears, you won't stop. When life pushes back, you won't fold. Because you didn't build your life on how you feel. You built it on what must be done. So this is your wake-up call. Stop asking how to feel motivated. Start asking how to become disciplined. Because motivation fades, but discipline stays. And once you choose it, there's no going back to excuses. Only progress, only strength, only control.